Let's begin with simulation exam number 1 to review chapters 1 through 4. The first questions are from chapter 1. Each question of chapter 1 is worth 1 point on the state exam. So let's mark these as 1 point questions. The first question says, property management includes all of these functions except A, the collection of rent. Yes, collecting rent is something a property manager does. Renting the property is also part of their role. And the correct answer, representing the owner. What does the answer mean when it says representing the owner? It refers to the authority to sell the property or to mortgage the property, which are things a property manager cannot do. So remember, what does a property manager not do? They do not represent the owner in a legal capacity. They assist in supervision and maintenance of the property, just as option D says, but they don't represent the owner legally. Let's go to the next question. It says, sales associate Luis provides a price opinion for a property. The sales associate charges a fee for his services as an appraisal. What is this? This concept of a price opinion will come up in the exam. It's called a BPO, which means broker price opinion. And this BPO is essentially the same as a CMA, comparative market analysis. So relate the two. BPO equals CMA. What's the difference? A BPO is requested by a bank. A CMA is something we do for a client who wants to know what their property is worth. The BPO is used by banks to estimate how much they can sell a repossessed property for. But again, it's not an appraisal. It's an estimate that we agents perform. Now, what does the law say? Chapter 1 says that a licensee can charge for a CMA, but it's not common practice. Still, it's not illegal. So, what's the issue in this question? That the sales associate charged a fee for something labeled as an appraisal. So, he did A but charged for B. That's the problem. The correct answer is C. This is a violation of Chapter 475. So, Luis will be sanctioned because Chapter 475 is the real estate law, and that's the one that was violated. Let's see the other answers. A violation of Chapter 120 that deals with disciplining licensees when they make mistakes in their professional practice. A fair housing violation of 1968, that's about discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, unrelated to this question. A civil rights violation of 1866, that law said you couldn't discriminate based on race. So you see how in this question, all the answers say it's a violation. You need to know why one of them is more correct than the others. Let's move on to question 3. When a broker gathers information to be presented regarding properties that have sold, properties currently on the market, and expired listings, what is the broker doing? Now, the question says that the licensee gathers information on sold properties, listed properties, and expired listings. What he is doing is he's performing a comparative market analysis, a CMA. Question 4. When a real estate appraiser or a real estate broker performs an appraisal, they must comply with the standards of USPAP. You must memorize this. Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. Now let me give you a variation of this answer that could come up in the exam. Imagine the question, and it gives you options like A. Florida Real Estate Commission, B. Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, C. Uniform Standards of Post-Appraisal Practice, D. Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act, RESPA. Now both B and C abbreviate to USPAP, but only one is correct. The key is the middle P. That stands for professional, not post. Let's go to question 5. Who is responsible for promoting education and ethics in real estate? The answer is National Association of Realtors, NAR. Yes, the Florida Real Estate Commission promotes education. For example, 45 hours of post-licensing for the first renewal, 14 hours of continuing education after that. But ethics is promoted by NAR, not the FREC 6. In which area of brokerage have absentee owners increased demand? Absentee owners, meaning owners who do not live on their property, have increased the demand for property management services. So, this gives you an additional potential source of income, managing properties for absentee owners. That's it for Chapter 1. Now let's get into Chapter 2. 7. The owner of a gas station who holds an inactive sales associate license has been appointed by the court to perform an appraisal on another gas station. Let's break it down step by step. First, does this person have a license? Yes, but it's inactive. Now, what does it mean to hold an inactive sales associate license? It's as if they don't have a license at all. Now, here's the key part. This person was appointed by the court, and that's the key. Back in chapter 2, we read who is exempt from needing a real estate license. According to paragraph 6, it says, individuals acting within the limits of their court assigned duties or who have been named as personal representatives in a will are authorized to sell, purchase, lease, or auction property, and may also be paid for their time and services, even if they do not have a real estate license. Why is this allowed? Because these individuals were either appointed by a court, judge, or by a will as personal representatives. So when a question like this shows up on the exam, there could be multiple versions of it. It might say appointed by the court, or appointed by a will, or named as a personal representative. Regardless of the wording, the answer is the same. That person does not need a real estate license to perform the task because they are legally exempt due to their appointment. So, this person who practically has no license by being appointed by the court is authorized to perform this work. What work? The one described here, an appraisal of a gas station. Which of the following statements applies to this situation? It says, since this person holds a real estate license, he can receive compensation for this real estate service. The license is inactive. This doesn't apply here. He can receive compensation, but not for the reason they give in that answer. The other option says he would have to have an active license to receive payment for his work. In almost every other case, that would be true, but not here, because in this case, he was appointed by the court. Answer C says he can receive compensation, but only from a broker. That's false. In this case, he doesn't need a broker. So the most straightforward answer, and the correct one, is the last one. He can receive compensation directly for his services. Let's keep going. 8. A broker from Georgia brings a prospect to Jacksonville, Florida to buy a property. The Georgia broker participates in the negotiation of the property. A Georgia broker can bring a client to Florida without any problem as long as they do not take part in the transaction. The issue arises when the out-of-state broker participates in negotiations or any part of the transaction. Sometimes, in the estate exam, you will find two possible correct answers, but there's always one that fits better. You have to choose the best answer, the one that applies most. Which of the following statements is true? The Florida broker can sincerely thank the Georgia broker. Yes, that's true, but it's not the correct answer. Pay the Georgia broker's accommodation expenses in Florida. No, when you give money in any form to a person who is not supposed to receive it, like in this case the broker from Georgia, you are breaking the law because it's like a disguised form of compensation. So no amount of money counts here. Next option, paying the Georgia broker a percentage of the commission? Not at all. No money can be exchanged between them in this case. No payments at all. The correct answer is do nothing, because by law, the Florida broker cannot share commission or pay expenses to an out-of-state broker in these circumstances, as it says here. 9. Jorge is a very successful real estate investor. Lately, he has been very busy with his businesses. That's why he asks his unlicensed daughter to help him sell one of his properties, and as a reward, he will give her $2,000. Based on this situation, which of the following statements is correct? Pay close attention. The daughter, who is the one going to sell the property and does not have a license, is going to receive a $2,000 compensation. So, she is violating the law. Why? The theory behind this question is, who is required to have a license? Anyone who wants to perform any of the real estate services. Selling is one of those services. In exchange for compensation, the $2,000 in this case, or in expectation of compensation, and for third parties. So for real estate law, what is a third party? Anyone other than you, meaning the father of this girl is considered a third party under real estate law. She must get a license unless she's exempt from needing one. And here we see no judge, no court, no will, no personal representative. So this is a violation. That's the answer. It's a violation of Chapter 475. Now let's analyze the other options. Option A says, she can do this because she's his daughter and her father doesn't have time to do it himself. The law doesn't get into whether someone has time or not. That doesn't make sense. So we've got one of the four answer choices that we can quickly eliminate. The next option says, this would be legal if she had received less than $2,000 in compensation. No, even $1 is enough. The amount doesn't matter. That's wrong. See, all these questions require reasoning, not just memorization. So don't expect these questions to appear exactly the same on the exam because they won't. You will get scenarios where you have to use what I'm teaching you to reason through and deduce the answers. This way, you can spot the key terms that will help you truly understand what they're asking.